Back to another rant. I want to make this a quick one. Just a little insight I had this morning. New Zealand, my home country, has gone into full lockdown again as the Delta variant of COVID spreads through the country and corrupts everybody. And I've seen this happen in a number of lockdowns before. The first time New Zealand ever went into lockdown, I was there, and I remember driving to the supermarket and seeing this massive crowd outside the liquor store. And it had become pretty clear that most people were intending to spend their lockdown just getting day drunk. Now, what I came to realize this morning is quite often something happens to us, a change in our regular life, and we view it as temporary. We think of this as something that's only going to be happening for a short period of time, like a lockdown's only going to be happening for X number of weeks. Or this injury to my foot will be healed in a month, or I've changed city, but I'll get used to it in a few weeks, or whatever. We have a change, and we label it in our heads as temporary. And when we do this, we tend to respond to that with a temporary strategy. And what I mean by that is we look at the thing as temporary, and then we change the way we're going to live, but with the mindset of, I only have to do this temporarily. And that usually means we're going to live in a less productive way. So for example, most people when it comes to lockdown, they start skipping on eating healthy and exercising. They drink more, they wind down their socializing, and they just sit around watching TV. And they think, I might as well because this is only temporary. Or somebody with an injury starts winding down in a similar way. They stop going out, they stop doing any other form of exercise, even though the rest of their body works just fine. Maybe they stop eating so healthy, maybe they start sort of becoming much more lethargic, or they start slacking off at work and they think, I'll get back into it once my injury's healed. This type of thinking is not only dangerous but ineffective. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but in my experience, the most effective way to deal with a change in your life is to treat it as if it's permanent. And this is for two reasons in particular. One is you get to acceptance a lot quicker. If you think of something as temporary, it makes you feel like you're in a waiting room, like life's paused while this thing sorts itself out. And it creates a lot of stress and frustration and resentment. Like, come on, I want to get on with my life. I see this especially, I've got a couple of clients who have permanent injuries or illnesses, except they haven't yet accepted that it's permanent, even though it's been going on for months or even years. They're thinking like, once this is dealt with, then I'll get back on with my life, rather than, I need to treat this as my new body. This is how I am now, which would get them to a place of acceptance a lot quicker, and there'd be less rage and resentment about their situation, less sense of unfairness. Just like you've accepted that gravity restricts you, or you've accepted that the bureaucracy of governments restricts you, you've made your peace with those restrictions and worked with them and around them and through them to have a good life, reasonably. And yet when some new restriction comes, you treat it as temporary. The second benefit to treating something as long-term is there's really good odds that even if it's temporary, a long-term strategy is still the best way to respond. For example, if you treat the latest lockdown as if you're always going to be locked down, that means you'll find a more efficient way to work by working from home. You'll find out how to get nutritious food and exercise from within your home rather than being able to go to the gym or regularly going to the supermarket or whatever. You'll find a way to socialize online to replace the in-person socializing that's taken away from you. And within 24 hours, probably, you'll have a life that's adapted to the lockdown. Now, if the lockdown only goes for 2 weeks, you haven't wasted your time by making that adjustment, because now you've added this new range of possibilities for the way you do things, which means if other restrictions come in the future, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know how to handle this because I've got this, I've practiced this before. So if after the lockdown you then get an injury or a sickness, you can apply a lot of your lockdown strategies to the sickness, and a lot of them will be relevant. So you'll be more adaptable and better prepared, and there's nothing more important than becoming an adaptable person in the age that we're in. Human freedom has peaked, and it's going to be going downhill until our extinction. We're overpopulated, the climate's fucked, we're running out of resources. Things are going to get tighter and more controlled as time goes on. It's not going to get more free, it's going to get less. And if you're not someone who can adapt to that and make the most of it, you're going to suffer immensely. So this is great practice. If you've got an injury or sickness or some sort of social change or COVID lockdown or whatever, even if it looks temporary, being able to quickly adjust your entire life in a permanent way to that change makes you an overall more adaptable person, and I promise you're going to need that. But also you'll find that a long-term focused adaptation is probably the healthiest one. Right? The short-term ones are usually kind of like, fuck it, I give up on life, I'm just going to party until this is over. Now the problem with that is you do damage while you're partying like that. Damage to your health, your social connections get weaker, whatever else gets neglected, your work suffers. But also there's a recovery period. If you try to get back into it after the temporary change is finished, you're going to struggle. You find it's really hard to get back into exercise when you take time off. It's hard to get back into cooking nutritious when you've gotten used to like cheap delivery food. It's hard to reconnect with people when you've let them sit, sort of in silence for weeks or months. Kind of feels a bit awkward. It's much easier to just keep things going. Momentum's really easy to maintain, really hard to get going. Same with habits. So you're much better off quickly adjusting your habits so that the momentum isn't lost than it is like stopping and restarting. So I just wanted to share that because I know a lot of you right now will be adopting a temporary reaction to what you think is a temporary situation. But COVID's not temporary. This shit's not going away. And the next thing's going to be even worse. We are so primed for another pandemic. We're primed for a financial crash. We're primed for fucking China to take over the world. We're primed for a climate crash. There's a lot of bad shit coming our way. But it's only going to be bad shit if you're not an adaptable person. Human beings have always had restrictions and suffering. But if you're someone who treats all of these things as something that you can handle in the long term, then you're not going to suffer like everyone else does. Hope that helps. See you all next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.